Sorry, we're closed.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back. Episode 62 of Sorry We're Closed. And I have a guest, as I usually do for Mondays. And it's a Twitter friend, but I've actually met this person in real life as well now. Mr. Chris Cotillo, welcome to the show, man.
What an honor. Really making up for your wonderful appearance on my sports writing workshop a couple weeks ago. So
yes.
I feel like we're even now.
We're even now. Now, I think the first time we actually formed that, because did you mention that you didn't cover the Sox when I was there?
Yeah, I started in 18, so I think that was after you. But yeah, through those overrated folks at the Section 10 podcast, I think is how we met.
Yeah, I remember I'd known of you, or at least interacted with you a little bit on Twitter, and then I think I formally met you outside of Fenway one night with Jared, or maybe even up in the box. I just remember you outside of Fenway, like sitting there waiting with us. I don't remember what the girl's name that was with us at the time, but. Dude, it's honestly, I appreciate you coming on. I don't think you ever joined us to go to Baseball Tavern, though, did you?
I did. I was there. I was one of the groupies. We went.
This is what happens when you drink too much, Chris. You don't remember things.
That's true. I remember. When we went to Thornton's.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Didn't I pay for that meal?
I think so. Yeah. So thank you. Very, very appreciated.
When Pat drinks, he's a very generous human being.
I remember McGillicuddy's making a very strong showing at that dinner at like 7:30 at night, but it was a day game, so it was fine.
Yes. Yeah. I am, as you know, obviously, and obviously most of my people on Twitter know that I'm in love with McGillicuddy's. I think
it's like mouthwash.
Yes, it is. It is delicious. I always say it's like a Christmas mint, but it's either Christmas mint or mouthwash. I've actually heard no one else say Christmas mint besides me, so it's mostly mouthwash. But it's delicious, and I very rarely ever get hungover from it.
I get, the weird part of that is that I mean it was the season, so it must have been over the summer, which we were probably the only people drinking that outside of December and all of America at that point, but good for us.
Seriously, I try to get it in my bar here down in Hoboken, and it's impossible. Like I reached out to them and was like, hey, listen, like I want to bring you in the bar. Like we're do a crazy amount of shots there. Like I think we're like supposedly we're the number one seller of Jameson on the East Coast, like the number one buyer. So It's like, we're going to do well. Like this will be fun. I'm going to push it like you wouldn't believe. And it's cheap as shit. I bought a bottle at the store once. It was like $17 down here. So
what's their competitors, Rumpleman's? Have you tried them?
Yeah, Rumpleman's. But Rumpleman's, the problem with Rumpleman's is that it's like 100 proof. So like I'd kill my customers. I can't.
Oh, is it? I didn't realize.
Yeah,
that.
It's really like McGillicuddy's is like just like the normal amount, like probably 40 or 50 proof.
Yeah.
But Rumpleman's is 100, and like if they start pounding Rumpleman shots, next thing I don't need that kind of drunk people in my bar.
No one does.
No. So McGillicuddy's was always like something that I thought would be great. It's something we don't have. It's cheap. My margins would be amazing. Like it's a win-win-win. And they're just like half-assing it, like whether or not they wanted to do it or not. And I was like, I'm trying to give you guys business. I don't understand why this is so difficult, but they didn't want to do it.
You need them for a podcast sponsor too, with all the good pub we're giving them.
Listen, it's a no lose for McGillicuddy's, and they just were like, nah, see you, bud. But I put on Twitter that right before we did this, and you retweeted it. We got some hits for people that want questions asked.
Yeah, some nicer than other.
Yeah, some are nicer than other. I won't name all of them, but there's one in particular that there's like a theme. Are you been telling people you're in Mexico or something?
No, it's the aforementioned Section 10 people have created the moniker of that I'm Chris Cotillo from the Mexican Times, which I don't know how it started. I think it's just from mispronouncing the last name, but Cotillo instead of Cotillo, and then the Mexican Times instead of Mass Live, which is my real employer. So I've always said I feel like the wonderful people at Mass Live who pay me and do great work do not appreciate that on a huge platform there's being a paper completely made up. But you know what? If it's what they want to say, they can say it.
Okay, so is that why in your Twitter bio it tells you how to pronounce your name?
Yeah, that's huge. It's Cotillo, rhymes with pillow. That's the easiest way to say it. But it's been something for my whole life. Obviously, like elementary school, middle school. Teachers asking if it was Cotillo or Cotillo, and my dad's proud Italian heritage, so he likes me to get it right and make sure people say it the right way.
Well, how'd you meet Jared? I don't know that story. Was it just on Twitter?
No, we this is deep cut, but we started actually at the same blog I'm sure he was around before then, but when I was a junior in high school, I was starting to write for this place called Sports Real Boston. I don't know if you know Jen Royal. She was the one who started it, and she had a bunch of people, but the three that I remember on the Red Sox side were Jared, myself, and June Lee, who works for ESPN, who's does a fantastic job too. So, through that, I think she had one or two events that Jared and I met at, and we've stayed in touch over the years. And then when I came back from school and got on the beat, I kind of noticed, wow, this guy's like blowing up and bunk beds with David Price and all that stuff. So it's been cool to see. So I've known him for almost 10 years, really, which is crazy to say, but it's and he still doesn't know how to say the last name, so that's a big issue.
That's right. He nicknamed me on a live stream Patty Dix. I would take the Cotillo in lieu of that nickname, because me and Jared got hooked up through Instagram or Twitter. I forget which one it was, but Brian Johnson was friends with Jared before I was. And right. Then I kind of, we just started going at it because Jared didn't like how many hashtags I used on Instagram. So back in the day in Instagram, hashtags were a thing. You were supposed to use them, you're supposed to,
not anymore.
Yeah, no, you don't use them anymore. At least I don't use them, but I haven't used them since that day because I'm terrified that Jared will see it and blow me up on it, even though I guess that's probably good for business if Jared blows you up on now that he's blown up. But yeah, Jared can be ruthless sometimes, but I absolutely love the guy. And I didn't really start becoming friends until 2021. So I guess 2018 when I stopped playing. I stopped playing in 2018. I didn't go. No. So 2019 is when I started going to Red Sox games with them. And that's when me and you met each other. And
it feels like about 10 years ago, back when fans were allowed in the stands and all that.
It does. It feels like a long time. Do you think we're getting that this year? I know that there's talks of it. Do you think we'll get it?
Yeah, I think it'll be probably 10% for April, and then they'll see where it goes. I mean, spring training games, I think they're having 24%. So there'll probably be less here than there is in Florida. But I can only hope. It was like the most sterile environment you could imagine last year being there. It wasn't even fun at all. Obviously, it wasn't fun watching those games because, even covering the team, I didn't know who was pitching. So, but just the lack of fans made it even worse.
Well, that brings me to my next question, Chris. Honest truth. In my current state, do you think I could have pitched for the Red Sox last year?
Yeah. Last year? I mean,
yes, I'm not be able to pitch this year.
But that's not a big compliment. That's not really a compliment. You see who was getting thrown out there?
It's a compliment to any time you say someone could pitch for a Major League Baseball team. But last year's team, I remember watching it. I stopped watching. Most people probably don't know this on Twitter, but about 2 months into this, or a month or so into the season, I completely stopped watching the games, and I would just follow along on Twitter because it was brutal to watch those games.
Yeah, me too, and I was actually there. So that's the problem.
How many media people were allowed?
I think there was 35 between all the video people and all the writers, but you could only do one per outlet. So, usually we have 2 or 3 people there from Mass Live. We had one every game. Excuse me, the Mexican Times.
Yes.
And the Globe usually has 3 or 4 people. They could only have one. So it was weird, but there really wasn't anything that you could get from being there that you couldn't get from being at home, which, but it was just, an excuse to get out of the house, be able to see, friends on the beat and stuff like that. And I guess get a better view of the game. But it was brutal. And they haven't given you any indication if that's going to be up this year or not? I think for spring training, there's going to be, a little bit more limited access. I'm not sure what the cap's going to be once we get back. Fenway has a small press box. So that doesn't help things either. They already limit who comes in, but if they have to spread us out, it just makes sense. The number goes down, but we're hopeful. I miss, being in there and full press box, packed house. I miss going on road trips, all that stuff. So the sooner I can get back to normal, the better, obviously.
Were you a team playing guy?
No, we're not. Nobody on the beat is, but except for Nesson and EEI, so the rights holders. So
that's
we're
true.
we're middle seat on Delta, JetBlue, but you can't rack up rewards points on the team plane, which is
it's true.
A game changer. So
most people stay off the team plane so they can get the rewards points.
Although same with the team hotels. I mean, if you're staying at these boutique 5-star places, you can't get Marriott points. Huge piece of the puzzle.
Yes, it's a huge piece of the puzzle. Although, some would say they'd rather the team playing in these beautiful hotels. But listen,
they're out of their minds.
Yeah, and they, so you can't take it from vacations later on. In the off season, where are you going to go? You can't go anywhere. It's expensive. So I've never even thought of that. I remember thinking on the team plane. I only went on it one time with Boston, a bunch with Minnesota, but I remember thinking there were way more media personnel on there than just WEI and what's the other one, and NESN.
Yeah, I think it's it's the broadcast team plus whoever the sideline person is, and then probably 2 or 3 producers, 2 or 3 directors, camera guys, and then EEI's got the broadcast team and producer and technician. So probably like 15 people in that group. I know they weren't allowed to go this year or in 2020. Who knows about 2021?
Okay, that makes sense though, because now I just assume I don't know all that stuff, the intricacies of putting together a production. So I just see 15, 20 people, and I just assume they're all from different publications. They have the special rights holder treatment. Okay, I remember how listen, you might not want to be in the team because they were not viewed in a positive light from players.
I heard Dennis Eckersley had a great time.
How long ago was that with him and Price?
I was 17, I think. That was before I was on the beat too, but I just dealt with the reverberations of it, and it was the story that would never end. It came back in 18, came back in 19 for its 3rd run. So, but people always wanted to read it. So if it was ever flaring up again, we were going to be writing it because the interest in that was always nuts.
Yeah, I mean, you got probably a future Hall of Famer, one that's already in the Hall of Fame, feuding. And there was always, I will tell you, there was always a negative connotation around Eck with players, specifically on the AAA squad, just because we were always watching the game. So like we heard him all the time. Whereas the players on the squad don't actually really hear him all that often, but we'd hear him all the time. And it just always felt as though he was more negative than he needed to be. Especially because, I mean, the guy's a Hall of Famer, so like he can say whatever the hell he wants. Like I would never say a word.
Yeah, that's the big piece to me. But he's not. I mean, he's not your run of the mill like Homer broadcaster that just says it's all compliments, and it's tough to walk that line. Those guys are usually not objective as the writers just because it's the Red Sox network and they're not doing national games like in the NFL. You see that there's no hometown announcer. It's all the national guys. So it's a tough line to walk, but you can do whatever you want, like you said, when you're in the Hall of Fame.
Exactly. You do it to everyone. I know that when I talk about players, there are times like when I'm watching things, I'm just like, this guy fucking kidding me? That's what he really just did. But like, if you see my tweet about that, it'd be like, tough ball game today. Like, I'm always like, I was, I had a career 43 ERA. And I know the game is very difficult. It wasn't easy for me. So I've always tried to walk the line a little bit better than Eck does. But again, this guy's a Hall of Famer. He should be able to say whatever he wants. But if I was a Hall of Famer, because from my understanding, that wasn't really a David Price versus Eck. It was like almost David Price was saying things for the younger guys that he felt.
Yeah, he was. I think he was sticking up for Erod. I think that's what it was all about. And those, which fits because, Price, Sale, and Erod, or Price, Sale, and Porcello were just, the biggest mentors and big brothers to Erod for his whole career. And they're like proud dads when he finally, almost won 20 games in 19. So that fits and makes sense that's what really set him off.
Yeah, no, I get that does make sense because I remember hearing about it. And David was always one to stand up for guys. And it's intriguing though, but the thought process behind David Price was always that he can't handle the media. Like he wasn't going to be able to come into Boston, be able to handle the Boston media and all that stuff. Right. So I always wonder if it was, I don't think, no, it wasn't. It was the year after that I had left that this happened. So that means that David Ortiz was off the team. I always wonder if it was like different, if it was just a different David on the team. Let's say David, Big Papi was still there and he went after Eck. What the dialogue would have been around that. A very different type of personality, and a guy that loves the media. Like,
I mean, from what I've heard, and again, this was before me, that a lot of players were clapping on the team plane when Price was screaming at Eckersley. So it was clear that he did have some support. So, but yeah, cool. That's another thing that seems like decades ago at this point.
No, I mean he definitely had support. There's no way. Like I told you, there is. when I was there in 2016, I was obviously around in 15 too, because I was in AAA. You just hear all of the negativity surrounding Eck, and like what he says. I actually love listening to him broadcast games now that I'm not a player anymore. He says things that I'm just like, oh geez, you're being tough, man. But like, it's enjoyable, and I understand why people love listening to him, because you're getting a Hall of Famer's perspective and a guy that's not going to just sugarcoat things and let everything go and just be very nice to people. So I understand why the fan likes listening to Eck, but I also completely understand why the player fucking hates the guy. And doesn't really have that.
The fans all do love him, and that was, I think, the highlight of the whole year for everybody was the 3-man booth this year. So, and I think they'll be back.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. It'd be fun. They should be back. They're great at what they do. The one Red Sox question I want to ask you, that actual personnel this year,
okay,
is it surprising to you that in 2008 we've lost almost the entire 2018 team?
It's kind of been a slow drip. I was thinking about it, last night, of how many guys were actually, there on the beat or were in the clubhouse before I was on the beat. Like it's down to like, Vasquez, JD, Bogarts, Devers, Barnes. I guess Marcus Walden technically counts. It's not many. I think someone said last night, like 9 guys from the World Series roster are still there. That even feels even high to me. So, when you think about it, Kimbrel and Kelly left immediately in free agency. Over the summer, they traded, and Brock left in free agency. Nunez. Over the summer, they traded Moreland, Workman, Hembry. And then obviously now we've seen Benintendi's gone. Mookie's been traded. I don't know if people heard about that. Mookie get traded to the Dodgers.
We did.
Yeah, big guy. I don't know if I'm breaking
that. You would be breaking that right now.
Yeah, every day for the last 366 days, people have been tweeting at me about it. So I still can't reverse the move. It was still not my decision. But yeah, it is. I mean, there's not many guys left, and but they still have that core. Bogarts and Devers, and I think they're really high on Verdugo. They obviously kept Vasquez instead of trading him, so there's still that familiarity. But I know it is tough. And actually, I have a story coming out this weekend about I talked to Heim about the sentimental value and how much they weigh that in when they're trying to make these moves. And it's some really interesting stuff to say, because they do consider it. They know that fans are not going to like it, but his job is to, fans are going to be happiest if they win a World Series, and that's his goal. And his job is to put them in the best position in his mind of what the best roster out there. So that's what he's going to do.
It's 1,000% true. I saw something yesterday, though. I want your take on it, on them saying that the Red Sox, I don't know who tweeted it, but it said something about the Red Sox being in like full blown Rays mode, which, there's, and then Peter, I tweeted out saying that, I think this is a bit much. Peter Gammons went back at me saying that 8 of the last 13 years, the Rays have had better records than the Red Sox. And then I obviously rebutted with 6 of those 13 years or whatever, 6 of those, or 5 of the years that we were there, we had 3 rings. The Rays had 0 since the year 2000. So like, I feel like the best option here is a hybrid for the Sox team to kind of do. I don't think we should go full blown.
Well, it's the Dodgers model, like build up with the way they did and then spend money when it's time. I think that's obviously how they're going to do it. And I wrote basically, I think at the end of December, I wrote something that people didn't like. It was that the Rays model is actually not a bad thing. Fans look at this and say, oh, the Red Sox, Tampa Bay North, that's a really negative thing. But if you really look at the numbers, and yes, the rings at the end of the day are what matters the most, but they have won more regular season games than the Red Sox over the last decade. And, head to head, and they finished higher 8 years. They obviously have had a couple bad years, but generally, like, for the resources they have, they've been a super impressive organization, a lot more homegrown, pitching talent, at least, than, the Red Sox have had. So I think there's just this negative connotation around them. Like, well, they're the poor Rays, and, they finished 5th for their first 10 years. So therefore they're just a shitty organization, when in fact, they're like one of the best in baseball. And if they could spend, the sky would be the limit for them. And people forget that they were actually in the World Series, just in October, and are going to have another good team this year.
Yeah, but then they trade Blake Snell. But I agree. I think you're right. Someone had tweeted back at me that when I put that tweet out talking about how some mentor for Bloom is actually the GM or someone high up in the Dodgers right now.
Yep, Andrew Friedman.
Okay, so I like that idea of growing, and it almost is what Theo did and what Ben Sherrington was trying to do. Although he had a huge miss with Pablo Sandoval and ended up, his demise was there. But it was, you have those homegrown talent, and then you go spend when it's time to go win a World Series. It just, so when I hear full blown Rays mode, it's like it feels as though we're never going to spend. Whereas I feel as though, again, I think if we said full blown Dodgers mode, I think a lot more people would be on board with it. It's just kind of the wording of it.
Yeah, no, it's definitely more going to be like the Dodgers. And I agree with Bloom. People say it's like, oh, you're a homer or just, carrying the water for the organization when you say this. But like and he made a good point even on Section 10 the other day. If Mookie was on the Red Sox, he'd be watching his World Series from his couch. And just like, Bloom did, and just like the rest of the Red Sox did. Mookie wasn't going to put them over the edge to be a World Series contender in 2020, especially with Erod down and Sale down and all that stuff. So without a guarantee that you're going to sign him, trade him, Verdugo, Downs, and Wong is a pretty good package. They're getting 5 guys back in this trade for Benintendi. The prospects they got for Workman, for Hembry, for Moreland, those guys are all going to make an impact, and people are starting to get excited about the young players. So it's going to take time. This is not a market where patience is usually preached. It's usually that, let's build it up and go all in. That's what Dombrowski did. People loved it. And then people criticize him for tearing down the farm system. So it's kind of a no-win situation, I feel, a lot of the time. But, they'll probably be in the mix for a wild card team this year, the wild card berth this year, and be able to spend next year. There's a ton of really good free agents, better than we're out there this time around. A lot of great shortstops, and we'll see who they get, whether they bring one of those guys in to play second or Bogarts opts out. There's a lot of possibilities, but patience is the key. I know it's hard and it's not satisfactory, but it really is, the whole point.
Oh, well, listen, and that's what I'm curious about. Then the next year's free agent market. Do you have some names you can throw at me that's in that market? Because I've talked about in my pod a little bit. I've obviously talked to Jared about it and all that, but I haven't looked into the next year's free agent market yet. Who's coming available?
I think it's like all the shortstops. So like Lindor, Correa, Baez, Story, I think are like the headliners. I guess Semien will be back because he's on a 1-year deal. Seager, Brandon Crawford. I'm looking at it now. Yeah, Seager, Brandon Crawford. So it's like all the shortstops are available. So there should be a rotating carousel. That'll make things pretty interesting for a lot of teams, obviously.
And Bogey's got an opt out next year.
I think so. I think it's after 22.
Interesting.
But a lot of people have said, Cora coming back. Well, I guess he'd be the year after those guys. Yeah, after 2022 is okay. Bogarts. But people think, Cora coming back makes it more likely that he stays. And he's the type of guy to me that I think is going to probably stay anyway. But if they're really bad the next couple of years and he plays really well and thinks he can get more money than he's owed, why not opt out? We see that happen all the time.
I think Xander stays. I mean, just from a guy who played with him for a little while, I knew him a little bit. I know he doesn't strike me like Mookie. To me, was always a guy that was going to go and get whatever the most money was. I think he would take a little bit of a pay cut to like say it was the Marlins versus the Dodgers. I think he would have went to the Dodgers with a little bit of a pay cut from the Marlins, let's say. But I think that he reminded me of like a Robinson Cano. Like everyone talked about when Robinson Cano became a free agent that he was going to whoever gave him the most money. The top dollar was getting Robinson Cano, and then the Mariners got him, which turned into a shit show because the Mariners suck. They're terrible.
They got some good prospects when they traded him, though. So,
some silver lining there. I have no faith in the Mariners farm system in any capacity. I almost have less faith in the Mariners farm system than I do in Pittsburgh. But now that Pittsburgh's got Ben Sherrington, I have more faith in them. Those two farm systems. I mean, again, I am a little bit negative because it's my last 2 stops in my career, and I suck. Right. So if I was better, maybe
it was their fault, though.
It was 100% their fault. Right. I was perfect until I. But if I still say that they were both they have people running the organization that don't really, in my opinion, didn't know baseball. Now I think Pittsburgh could be different now with Ben because I think Ben's great. But I think Mariners. I remember the one guy we had some guy. I won't mention his name. I do know his name, but I won't mention it. He had like he was like a community college coach once, and he was like I won't give his position either because I don't want people to go look it up and then tweet it.
I'll figure it out and tweet it out.
I'll just tell you when we do. Don't tweet it out. But he was like a community college pitcher or coach once, and then he has a pretty high up position in the Mariners. And I'm not saying that you can't know baseball unless you played at a high level. That's obviously stupid, to say. But it just when you're at that highest level, there is a expectation of you to have a wealth of knowledge about the game. You're quite literally supposed to the AAA level. You're trying to tell people how to get places, how to get to the big leagues. If you've never been there, how am I supposed to listen to you? It was always a weird thing. But I'm going to ask one favor of you, Chris.
Okay.
I think you're going to say no. I'll lead with that.
All right. Probably.
Because it kind of might ruin for about a day or two, or let's say a week, your reputation as far as what you're tweeting out.
All right.
But I would love if we could start tweeting out about the Red Sox having interest in me.
Okay. I can qualify it with this is absolutely not true. But
in the tweet, in the first, let's say, tweet or two, you don't even mention my name. You just say the Red Sox are interested in a right-handed reliever who's been out of the game since, for a couple of years. And then it has to be, the name must be mentioned. And then the next day you can say, once you say my name, everyone's going to know it's a joke anyway.
Hey, look, that's not far off from some of the names they've been pursuing. So they're bringing a lot of these NRI guys, and we've seen a few of them. We'll get the full list soon, but a lot of these guys haven't pitched in a couple of years. A lot of flyers. I'll flip the question on you because it's weird. Like you said, when you tweet that you're asking me questions instead of the other way around because you're the player. So if the Red Sox, two questions. If the Red Sox offered you a minor league deal to come to camp in Fort Myers, number one, would you do it? And number two, what would 2021 Pat Light look like out there?
The answer is no, I wouldn't go. Unless they offered me crazy money, which they're not going to on a minor league deal.
Right.
Did I get an invite to spring training?
Yeah. Big league camp. Yeah, they have a 75 guy cap, so that's big honor in 2021.
That would make so many headlines just off the sheer confusion for people.
Yeah, local bar owner gets invited to spring training.
I wouldn't go. Just no chance. And 2022 or 2021 Pat Light would be tough, Chris. My shoulder would more than likely tear because I tried to throw a baseball once like a couple weeks ago, and I tried to throw it. It was like, you get into it, you start feeling, you feel like, okay, I still have 100 in the tank, and I tried to throw one hard, and my shoulder was just like not having it. And nothing tore back there, but something was like telling me to shut the fuck up and please don't do that ever again. So, I mean, I can say confidently that 2021 would be a year of me being on the DL, or what's it called now?
The injured list.
The injured list. Injured list. I'd be on the injured list the entire year. I would go into spring training. Well, they'd probably release me at the end of spring training. I wouldn't make a team.
You make it to the end?
No, God, no.
I would. The end of spring training?
I'm telling you, Chris, I would show up to spring training.
Fail the physical.
I don't think I'd fail physical. But the moment I step on a mound, people are concerned. There are question marks. What's going on? This is who we signed. And then I'll be able to get through the first couple bullpens saying I'm taking it easy, just kind of get into the swing of things. Right. And then when we start doing, I don't know if I'd be able to make it to live BPs, which is only for reference for people back home. Live BPs are probably 2 weeks, a week and a half, depending on when you get to spring training, when they throw you into a live BP. I don't know if I make it there. And if I do, I'd throw one live BP and they'd probably release me.
We have breaking news that just came in. I don't know when you're gonna post this, but
This comes out Monday, so tell me.
Brock Holt goes to the Rangers on a minor league deal.
Brock Holt to the Rangers. Yeah, I was hoping we'd take him back. He's awesome.
No, that was never going to happen. But
yeah, okay.
But he's from Texas, and there you go, going home for Brock Holt.
And he got traded to us from the Dodgers, right? originally.
No, the Pirates and the Joel Hanrahan deal way back when.
Okay, because I remember him coming over.
He was the throw-in that trade.
Yeah, he wasn't much of anything, but I remember him coming over and being in the minor league clubhouse, and like I never spoke to him until I got to the big leagues in 16. But I remember him coming over and like seeing. I was like, oh, this is the expectation was that he was kind of a throw in for the deal. Like we weren't really sure who he was, and it's like it's high school in minor league clubhouse. It's like, who's this new guy? Like all this other stuff. He's got no friends.
Yeah. That changed quickly with him, I'm sure.
Oh my God. Well, he was just such a lovable guy. Like he was fantastic. People, loved playing. And then he was in the big leagues quickly thereafter and never left until, obviously they got rid of him. But brought Cole to the Rangers. Good for him. And I just had my first ever breaking news on the podcast. It won't be breaking.
Yeah, you need a siren or a button or something.
I don't typically break news on this is more of a podcast that does just funny shit and relaxing stuff. I've had news before. One time I had breaking news that I was going to throw out there from Boris Court because every now and again they throw me a few bones. I never tweeted it though because I'm just like
well you
I'm
can
more
just text me and I'll break it.
Yeah, so I was actually bringing Jared in on it. But they ended up going with the Chicago Tribune or something like that, which is a much more reputable source than my Twitter account. But yeah, they text me some things, and so every now and again I'm like, maybe I should break some things. But like in reality, I'm just like talking shop with one of the guys that was at Boris Corp when I was doing it, and he just knows some stuff, so we just ended up talking shit. But if there's anything breaking, I always throw it to you. Although apparently they break everything through Heyman, no?
That is the rumor, but I think Jeff Passan, Ken Rosenthal, those guys, everybody's well connected in every organization when you're at that level. So it's not as cut and dried, I think, as people think.
Okay, well, I'm supposed to have John on the show here eventually, and that's my first question: is he the source for Boris Corp?
Wow, that's big. I wonder what he'll say.
I can't imagine him confirming it. He'll probably deny it, just saying, "Oh, well, we know some guys, the usual rigmarole that players."
Everybody knows everybody. Yeah, that's a good reporter answer.
And didn't you said earlier, and I think you've told me off the pod before, is that you get out most of your stuff from agents now, and that's how you got your start.
Yeah, a lot of it's from agents. I mean, it really is, case by case, and a lot of it, for me, is just trying to find context clues of things that are going on. So, if you pay attention on to different possibilities, different fits, and it makes things easier. This offseason for me with the Red Sox, like, all right, who fits the roster? Who has clear connections to Cora and Bloom? And then you start asking around. You ask anybody who might be in the know, which is, sometimes more people than I think the public thinks. And once you feel like you've heard it from a couple places solidly and get it, confirmed from people in really good places. I know I have to be as vague as possible, but you feel good running with it. Like, Marwin Gonzalez, who they just signed, was a good fit. I knew they wanted a left-handed hitting first baseman type. He's obviously a lot more than that. Switch hitter who can play everywhere, but played for Cora as the bench coach in Houston in 2017. Utility guy, not going to cost much. Just made a lot of sense as a fit. So you start asking, hey, have there been talks with Marwin? Or if you're asking Marwin's side, have there been talks with the Red Sox? And eventually you get either the yes or no. So and this year with the Red Sox, pretty much everywhere. Have you had talks with the Red Sox? Every camp was saying yes, because the Red Sox, as everybody knows, were interested in everybody, and they actually ended up signing a bunch of the guys they were in on.
Oh, good for them. Who's Marwin's agent?
He switched around a lot. I think he's with MVP Dan Lozano.
Okay.
Who's Pujols' agent right now, but I think he's switched 2 or 3 times in the last couple of years. There's been a lot of agent switching, and this is interesting, player perspective stuff as a Boris guy, but there have been a lot of free agents, or a few significant free agents, who were upset that they weren't signed late into the offseason, fired their guys, and went elsewhere in the middle of the free agent process. Which, if you're an agent, you're looking at that 4 or 5% commission on a free agency deal, and all of a sudden you're fired and it's going to someone else. So that must suck.
That must suck. Did anyone fire Scott?
I don't know. I know Brad Hand, he didn't fire Scott, but he switched. Ozuna switched in the middle of his free agency. So that, the
That's
commission on a $665 million deal there.
Yeah, that's tough.
So, I mean, players didn't really get that it was not the agent's fault this year. I mean, that's not, the teams were not willing to spend, and the offseason is super slow. So I guess they figured if they switched agents, they'd get a deal quicker. But in those cases, both of those guys signed in February, I think. So it didn't matter.
Yeah, anyway, in my time and knowing the agents and talking to some of the guys, it's never really the agent's fault. It's usually the team is dragging their feet. They don't know what they want to do. There are times where the agents might be pushing for more, but they're always there trying to get you more money because it gets them more money. So it's interesting sometimes that the agents get slack, especially like I remember Scott got a lot of slack. Scott always gets slack, but it's always interesting to me when players start to demonize their own agents and then end up firing them and switching, assuming it's their fault. When a lot of times it's really just the team, especially this free agent market. Like this free agent just seems like no one wanted to sign anyone before February. Yeah,
it was a nickel and diming market. So, but still, guys have been getting good deals. Bauer's deal was a lot of money and impressive. Springer got 150 or 160, so that ended up being impressive. So.
I'm thrilled the Red Sox were not in on Trevor Bauer, or they didn't get in. I think that is the most flash in the pan year that I've seen. I'm granted, great for him going into his free agent market, getting a Cy Young award, but the guy
well timed.
Well timed. But the guy has been a fairly run of the mill pitcher throughout it, like a good middle of the rotation guy, but he's not an ace. And you knew Rachel Luba was going to go after, ace type money, and you knew Trevor wanted ace type money. I think the Padres pushed the Dodgers into doing some of those deals.
Yeah, I think Friedman with the Dodgers said yesterday that, they've noticed what the Padres are doing, and that's kind of, might have pushed them into it. But yeah, it's the rich get richer. They were obviously the World Series favorite even before Mookie, and then they were again the World Series favorite heading in this year. Now add Bauer to that mix, and they could probably still bring back Justin Turner and blow past that CBT and win another one. Why not?
Seriously, it honestly feels like whoever wins the NL West right now is going to win the World Series.
I know. Yeah, but a lot can happen in a 7-game series.
Dude, seriously. But listen, Chris, I appreciate you coming on. This is way more fun than going on Section 10. Although I absolutely love those guys. I'm still trying to get Jared to come down to Hoboken. The guy is the most MIA person in the entire world. And then he'll text you. I don't know if you have these conversations with him. He'll text you, "Hey Pat, what's up, man?" I'll be like, "Hey Jared, how you doing?" He's like, "Doing good. How about you?" Like, "Great." End of conversation.
That's it. Yeah. It's just it's the meaningless check-in.
Yes. Meaningless check-in. But listen, he's checking in, which is great. It's fantastic.
It's better than nothing, right?
Yeah. So next week, this is the 12th. This drops Monday, which means right around Wednesdays when you need to start tweeting about interest in an unknown right-handed reliever who's been out of the game, and then and then we'll go from there. Yeah, it's going to go great.
Yeah, I'm sure my employer will love it.
Yeah. Now, listen, I got a lot of friends over at Mass. I got a lot of friends over at Mass Live. You just tell me who to call.
All right, I will.
And I'll make some few phone calls. I'll make a few phone calls. We'll handle this. The number of eyeballs on this will be. You might get national headlines because
it'll be in the 2 to 4 range. Yours and mine.
Maybe Jared.
Yeah, 2 to 6.
Jared's gonna look at it and be like, "Who are you talking about? Who's this unidentified player?"
Yeah, it's the one you think it is.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on, man. I know. Hopefully, we see each other a little bit more in Boston this year. Have a few drinks. Baseball Tavern's gone, but I'm sure I'll find another bar. That's not gonna be that hard.
Cheeky Monkey on Lansdowne. That's my pick for the next one.
That's your pick. So Steve was tweeting out about something, some bar,
bar,
isn't it?
Yeah. It's a little cramped for the.
Is it small?
Yeah, Cheeky Monkey is as long as it survives the pandemic is massive, and I just moved into the neighborhood, so it'll be an easy walk home after for me too.
So is there a hotel nearby?
Yeah, there's a few. You can stay at the Residence Inn with all the big leaguers.
Oh, perfect. That's what I'll do then. All right. Well, listen, again, appreciate you coming on, Chris. I know me and you will talk soon. I'll see you on Twitter as I always do. And listen, have a good weekend. For the people listening on Monday, have a great week, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much for listening to the Sorry We're Closed podcast. Go subscribe to our email chain over at thepatlight.com and follow us on all social media. Until next time, guys, I'll see you at the bar.
Sorry, we're closed.